ist es soweit. Mittlerweile dürfen wir auch alle Live-Zuseher begrüßen, die dabei sind. Herzlich willkommen zum Patriotischen Frühlingsfest.
Welcome to the Patriotic Spring Festival.
Bienvenue à la fête patriotique du printemps.
Benvenuti a primavera con fermezza patriottica.
Und nun begrüßen wir jene führenden patriotischen Kräfte in der EU, die gegen die Zentralisierung und gegen die Massenzuwanderung sind, aber dafür für die Vielfalt, für die Souveränität und für die Nationalität der Staaten sich einsetzt. Herzlich willkommen im Bienvenue en Autriche, die Vorsitzende des Front National, Marine Le Pen. Herzlich willkommen an unsere europäischen Gäste. Bienvenue en Autriche, à Vienne.
Herzlich willkommen, ein Riesenapplaus für unsere Gäste. Wenn sich alles beruhigt hat,
So if
jeder sein Foto
you
gemacht hat,
get quiet again, if
dann bitte ich
everybody
die Gäste,
took pictures, then I asked the guests and I asked the photographers to sit down again to start with our program.
nun darf ich
Now I would like to welcome the gentleman who is not only responsible for this big event, but who is one of the initiators, coordinators of the European movement, a Europe of nations and freedom, and in the fraction of the European Union Parliament of Freedom and National States, our Vice President of the fraction European Union, Harald Wilimski. Thank you very, very much. Dear friends, today we start our Patriotic Spring, and we have the impression as if today there are two events. One event which some leftist media, violent specialists wants or just desire it, and another event of the Patriotic Spring which really is happening, an event in dignity with representative of 10 nations of our continent, which behave well, which stick to order, which just express their ideas of a new Europe with more prosperity, with more safety, with more security. So we would like to welcome everybody who accepted our invitation today. These 10 nations have one target. Well, these very high-ranking representatives of 10 nations have the target to stop the craziness of Mr. Juncker, of Mr. Schulz, and to prevent it. And these 10 nations are fighting for freedom, friendship, cooperation on our continent, which are functioning. And these 10 nations are also fighting for the fact that not multinational company group should get the profit in Europe, for example, TTIP and CETA, but on the contrary, our agriculture, our farmers and the farmers of Europe should have a good future. And above all, ladies and gentlemen, above all of these 10 nations, and at the head of these 10 nations, I would like to welcome the president of our international fraction, the president of the Front National, Marine Le Pen. So I'm very happy, dear friends, to welcome a very high-ranking alternative of the Alternative für Deutschland, who became part of our alliance now, and whom I got to know before he became part of our alliance, and who has become a friend in the meantime. Markus Brezel. But not only himself, also other high-ranking representatives of AfD, the bosses of AfD, Brandenberg and Dr. Alexander Gauland and Peter Pistor. We would like to welcome you here in Vienna. And I'm also very happy that from our neighboring Bella Italia we can welcome a representative who is representing his head, Matteo Salvini, who is campaigning in the finishing campaign in some municipalities of Italy, and he is represented by my colleague in the European Parliament, Lorenzo Fontana. From Flandern, dear friends, that's the part of Belgium which would like to become independent of Wallonie. And I would like to welcome somebody who is a very old friend of FPÖ and who's fighting with me in the European Parliament that we can just defend our continent, Gerolf Annemans. From Great Britain, dear friends, we are welcoming Janice Atkinson, a real British lady who is also Janice. We would like to welcome you. And she is fighting for the fact that Great Britain should not be suppressed by Britain anymore. On the contrary, Great Britain should cooperate with Europe wherever Great Britain wants to cooperate and not just being suppressed by the dictate of Schulz and Juncker and the other commissioners. Dear ladies and gentlemen from Eastern Europe, we also have invited partners for our alliance from Poland. I would like to welcome Michael Marušík, who is a very important part of our fraction. From the Netherlands, with a special welcome of Gerd Wilders, Olaf Stuger, where are you? Also our colleague from the European Parliament. Olaf, where are you? And you have to know that Olaf is not only a real good friend, but he is the strongest man in the European Parliament. From Romania, also somebody who has become a dear friend of us, Laurențiu Rebega, who came and the wonderful thing in his political attitude is that he changed his attitude. He wanted to establish a party in Romania to say very consciously, he wants to call back his citizens back to Europe, because to Romania. He says it does not help to do big, cheap jobs in Europe. Come home to Romania and help us to develop a new Romania. And this, of course, is a very good agreement with our idea of a united Europe. And last but not least, from the Czech Republic, also a partner of our alliance, a very close ally, somebody who is fighting with his party for freedom and direct democracy in the Czech Parliament, Tomio Okamura. He came to us today, has come to us today. He's not only a successful politician, but he's also author of numerous books. And we should never forget, on an evening like that, we should never forget the persons who do the work behind. I would like to welcome the top managers of Ludovic de Dande, François Thibault, the managers of the party and of the fraction. And you might feel already I have not yet welcomed anybody from the Party of Freedom, because we are a polite party, because guests are in front. But I would like also to welcome especially two representatives of the high-ranking representatives of FPÖ. The first one is the one who did an election campaign for months and who just had a wonderful result with just a quarter% difference. Norbert Hofer, we would like to welcome you. But the real mastermind, the person who since 2005 has been the head of that party. At this time we had 3% and 10 million debts. Nobody would have bet 1 cent for the FPÖ. A gentleman who was fighting in a lot of election campaigns, and now he has led the Party of Freedom to the heights where we are here. Everybody is happy in Europe that we have succeeded. And who really has succeeded? That's you, Heinz Christian. Thank you very much. We would like to welcome you. And why do we meet here, and why do we present our ideas to you? We have lived on a continent which was functioning politically according to rules which enabled us to live in prosperity, friendship and peace. Today we have a very high unemployment, a currency which is nearly collapsing. We have wars at the borders of Europe and a lot of competences which are taken away from us. And our answer will be to present a Europe to you which enables you, all the national countries, to cooperate in the fields where they want to cooperate. And Marine Le Pen had a very good idea. She called it the Europe à la carte. So you can define yourself where you would like to cooperate and where you don't want to cooperate. Dear friends, today we have a huge program in front of us. We have a very dignified event, and I'm very happy that you came in great numbers. And just to use the words of the circus, let's enjoy the evening. I would like to welcome you and thank you very much. Wish you a pleasant evening.
Jetzt ist und
Now he left the stage. Dear Harald, you have to stay here because now we start the first round with patriotic forces from the different national countries, and they will present their visions. So we are calling now Romania, Czech Republic, and Poland, and I ask the representatives of these countries to come to the stage. And now we will start. We would like to start with our three representatives from Eastern Europe. Let me just explain the organization. Well, we need two headsets for the two gentlemen because, unfortunately, I do not speak Czech or Romanian. And we will do it like that. We have different versions of translation. You will listen to me speaking German. These three gentlemen will listen to us in their language. What they answer will not be loud, but you will listen to the translators who will translate into German what these gentlemen are saying. Let me start with Laurentiu. Well, I have traveled with him a lot already for political reasons, and he's a very important part of our ally. How do you see the possibilities similar to what happens in Germany, France, and Austria? How do you see the possibility to have a party like that also in Romania and to establish a party like that in Romania? He needs a microphone. I'm sorry, he needs a microphone.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you, Harald, First of all, I would like to thank to all of you who join us tonight and show the support for probably the biggest result you ever get.
Uns wahrscheinlich unterstützen bei einem wunderbaren Ergebnis. Die Partei, ich gratuliere allen.
And then, well, now I'm the only MEP representative from Romania in our group, ENF.
Von ENF.
But I hope I won't be alone for a long time. Seriously speaking, the public opinion perception in the eastern member states is quite different from the
Staaten unterscheidet sich von den westlichen Meinungen.
After the fall of communism, almost all the people in Eastern Europe look to the EU as to a promised land. And between the Eastern, the Romanians were the champions in supporting the integration idea. Euroscepticism has grown up only in the last few years when the people saw that the EU has a double standard towards our country. Now many Romanians are suffering the disillusion regarding the high expectation they had from the EU. Actually, it's a large debate in Romania public sphere, pointing out that for our country there are much more drawbacks following the EU accession. As representative of Romania in the ENF group, I support a strong reformation of the EU in order to eliminate the hyper-centralized bureaucracy in Brussels and give back the power to the nations.
Vielen Dank, lieber Laurentiu.
Thank you, Laurentiu. Another question, and I ask you to give me a very short answer. When I looked at the difference between Eastern and Western Europe, Well, Western Europe is much more obeying Brussels, and in Eastern Europe you have much more resistance. And what is the difference? Why is Eastern Europe a lot more resistant against what is just told in Brussels?
I would like to say the regular polls show that the 30% of Romanians would strongly support the patriotic parties. But the mainstream mass media and the big traditional parties have had a successful propaganda in suppressing the patriotic movements. People were simply frightened by the idea that the nationalists would abolish the right of people to work abroad. We are now in combat with this myth, and we believe that in the future the nationalist movement will gain more force. Now our main objective is to unify the patriotic parties and movements to create a large platform able to convince the voters. We haven't much time as the election will take place in November, but I am confident that the patriotic movement in Romania will have a snowball effect.
Danke, Laurențiu. Jetzt gehe ich da chronologisch.
So thank you, Laurențiu. Now I go Tomio Okamura, the Czech politician. Well, a very ambitious politician in Czech. He was born in Japan. He came to Czech Republic when he was 6 years old, and he's very successful. He's a successful author. I would like to ask him a political question, dear Tomio Okamura. The Czech Republic had a very positive attitude towards EU and NATO. Now things have changed, and I would like to ask you, why have these things changed, and what is today's mood concerning European Union and NATO?
Let me congratulate you for a great result in the presidential election. A good job to the Freedom Party of Austria, Mr. Strache, Mr. Hofer, and I look forward to working together at European level. And next to your question, according to all available research, the majority of Czech citizens are dissatisfied with the current function of the EU. Mood changes, such as in the European Union, gradually change, and I believe this applies to all countries in all Europe. So, as we are here, we represent an example that it is possible to be a patriot, defending the sovereignty on the country, and also to build international beneficial cooperation on the basis of a good partnership for all. Brussels policy turned into a dictation is not beneficial to any country and is based only on the needs of Brussels, which leaves its own life isolated from the reality.
Danke sehr. Jetzt möchte ich eine zweite Frage noch anschließen.
Now I would like to ask you a second question, which is quite interesting for everybody. Tomio Okamura has written a book with the title The Art of Direct Democracy. And he is also supporting direct democracy within his party. And now the question, the European Union isn't that a kind of contradiction to this direct democracy? And what is the attitude towards direct democracy in your country?
You are absolutely right, because it is absolutely contradictory. Centralist dictatorship and bureaucratic elites are totally contradictory with democracy. In the true democracy, power is maximally decentralized. It means that what can be decided in the village, in the region, in the country will be decided at the lowest possible level. Power vested in the central government should be minimized and, in addition, reviewable by citizens. And anyway, just last sentence, I am not 100% Japanese, I am half Czech and half Japanese, and my mother born in the next region to the Austria, close from Brno. So I am very close from the Austria and there is region of my mother. So I wish you all the best, Austrian people, and I looking forward to cooperation for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tomio Okamura.
Thank you, Tomio Okamura. And the third and the last of our Eastern European part will be Michael Marušik from Poland, who is part of a political party, of a political group which is fighting against communism, against the Eastern type of socialism. And since the 70s, he has been fighting against the dictatorship of Soviet influence in his home country. And he is considered to be very conservative as far as values are concerned. And my question to him, how is Poland threatened by mass migration? Maybe not so much than the Western countries, and from his point of view, what's the reason why Poland is not so much threatened by mass immigration than other countries? I would like to welcome you, especially the Austrians. A few centuries ago, a Polish king came to Vienna. And this was very good that he came, because at this time he was defending freedom and justice. And today it's only me who is here as a very modest representative. And I also have a message to you. Poland has less problem with migration, and the reasons are twofold. First, well, the European governments are very busy to take away the fruits of labor from the ones who work and to give it to them who do not work. And so it's no wonder that half of the world wants to come to Europe and use the fruits and the results of our work. We are against that because that's detrimental. And the Polish authorities they take a lot, but they do not give so much. That's why we do not have a lot of social benefits, and that's the foreign immigrants cannot come to us and suck our blood. So Poland is a very Christian country with very conservative values. And in the European Union and in Brussels, you have the feeling that you keep open the doors for more and more Islamism and for more just suppressing the real culture in Europe. And a question to you, how bad is the mood in Europe, in Poland, against this policy without values? Well, the ethical value are, of course, protected in Poland, and these are the values which give power to Europe. And here we really have to consider our rights, and we have to, of course, defend ourselves against this flood from foreign countries. And this is really applied in Poland, and there is so far no agreement for this mass migration. And in Poland, bad behavior is not rewarded, and that's why we still defend ourselves. And I'm so happy that I see so many friends from abroad who also believe in our Europe, in our living Europe, who are sure that there will be spring again in Europe, that there will be a normal Europe, a normal Europe of nations and freedom. Thank you very much, and let's clap our hand for the three representatives of Eastern Europe. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for these first impressions from Romania, Poland, and the Czech Republic. And now we will continue with European policy with our first guest speaker. For us neighbors who for many decades have stood for patriotic renewal in Europe, it was always a little bit sad when we looked over the border towards Germany. There was a big white spot on the map with nobody to represent the interests and wishes of the citizens. There were a lot of efforts, but all of them failed. But since 2013, that is 3 years only, there is a new force, the Alternative for Germany. It was them who achieved what nobody thought possible. They are now represented in the European Parliament and in 8 out of 16 provincial parliaments. Surveys say that the AfD will get 10 to 15% at the general elections. And it is absolutely great to have one of the representative of the AfD in our ENF fraction. He is at the head of AfD in North Rhine-Westphalia, Markus Brezel. And before we hear his speech, we will see an interesting video about this new party.
Wie katastrophal diese Regierung uns nicht mehr regiert, sondern es zulässt, dass Recht und Gesetz keine Rolle mehr spielen, dann wissen wir, dass es höchste Zeit ist, vielen ängstlichen Bürgern in Deutschland Mut zu machen. Dass die Demokratie und dass Bürgerbeteiligung nach Deutschland zurückkehrt.
Ein herzliches Willkommen.
A cordial welcome to Markus Brezel, member of the European Parliament on behalf of AfD. Ladies and gentlemen, you saw right now impressions of our Federal Party meeting with more than 3,000 participants, the largest one in German history. We started out at 3%, and today, I have to correct them, even Mr. Göhner from SPD expects us to achieve 11%. So we are between 11 and 15%, and maybe even 13 to 15% if we leave him out. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to FPO, to Heinz-Christian Strache, but also to Harold Wilimski, who has organized everything here. And he is also more or less responsible for myself being a member of the ENF fraction, and I'm very grateful for that. Thank you, Harold. Of course, I also like to give love from Frauke Petri, who is also very happy about this event, apart from the prominent, outstanding FPO politicians. Marine Le Pen, the president of our fraction at the European Parliament, is also present here. A Europe of nations and freedom. And finally, also a German party that is part of this huge European movement, this European patriotic movement. Ladies and gentlemen, a patriot loves his or her country, is usually said. But now look at the condition of Germany. Look at this country and imagine that you're supposed to love a country which is governed by Angela Merkel. Yes, it is not easy for German patriots to love their country, at least not in the condition it is in right now. A German patriot loves what Germany was in the past and what Germany could be, but they cry in the face of Germany's condition and Europe's condition. But we've got together here in Vienna today not by coincidence, because another Congress, the Viennese Congress, started to give Europe a new order. So this is supposed to be a threat and a promise at the same time. A threat for Schulz, Juncker and the entire EU establishment. Because, ladies and gentlemen, all of us here in Europe, all these wonderful nations, we have the right to a patriot, to a home country, to our culture, to our language, and the right to have our own identity, and we're going to get it back. Europe's cultural imperialism during its boom time was lost, but because of a cultural pessimism, especially towards its own culture, the German culture, the French one, the Austrian one, and the other wonderful cultures we have in Europe. We have observed an auto-aggression in European policy and European culture. What we need in Europe is something of a true patriotism, which we have to get back, because there's a lot we can be proud of, things we have achieved in the past. Amongst others, the revelation which led to a free society with the individual at the heart of society, something we do not want to exchange for another culture. Our politicians throughout Europe want to enforce upon us. Yes, the freedom of the individual must be protected and defended. This once was the basic values of our joint culture. Yesterday I read in a newspaper that approximately half of all Germans of Turkish origin regard the Sharia as more important than the values of our constitution. Then we have a dissension of values, not only in Germany, everywhere in Europe. A joint culture, a joint society needs stable values, a stable foundation. A second question has been asked. These Germans of Turkish origin, 1/3 of them wants to go back to the world of Muhammad, to Sharia, a social system as it was at the time of Muhammad. But that's not the values we in Germany, in Austria, in France, and anywhere else in Europe would like to have. And this is why it's patriots from all over Europe who want to lead Europe back to its root, to a freedom-loving society. They want to lead them towards direct democracy, legal states. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to change our countries, to change Europe. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Dankeschön, Markus Brezel.
Thank you very much, Markus Brezel. Yes, Markus Brezel spoke about culture. And this culture we want to present to you. Austrian culture here at this stage today, in line with our Patriotic Spring event. They are called the Feugasblattler and are from Upper Austria. And we will continue right away with our next discussion round. Dear Harold, I ask you to come to the floor. We will have Italy, Great Britain and Flanders. Marlies. Jetzt bitte halt. Dear friends, we will have now our second and last presentation round of our international partners before we will have the peak of our evening, the speeches of Marine Le Pen and Heinz Christian Strache. We will start with Janice Atkinson. So if you just think of Great Britain, of the British way of life, the British style. And in addition, you imagine the typical British role model, it will get you right to Janice Atkinson. At the Parliament, she is responsible for the same fields as myself, for migration, asylum, civil freedoms, and amongst others. She made a very interesting journey to Greece, to the migrant hotspots, and will tell us about her personal experience, and I'd like to ask her to tell us about it.
Good evening, FPO. Thank you so much for welcoming us. It's been brilliant. My first impression when I went to the Greek migrant camps was the amount of the human rights industry that were there. And our leader of the Libe committee, which we serve on, was a socialist by the name of Peter Niedermüller. And the message to the NGOs was, we have open borders. Take that down to the migrant camps. We have open borders. They are temporarily closed, but they will open soon. We are here on behalf of the European Commission and the European Parliament to tell them the borders will soon be opening. So when I spoke to the NGOs and the charity workers, I said, what is going to be the reaction if you take that message down into the camps? Well, there'll be riots. There's already been riots because they don't like being kept back from our countries. That's a very, very dangerous message, the NGOs said. So what did I take back to the European Parliament and told the Commission? Is that we've got to get the proper messages out there. Our borders are closed. We have had to take back control of our own borders across Europe because the European Commission, despite spending billions on migration and sending it to Greece, they cannot control the borders. And then recently we've seen the UNHCR and also Médecins Sans Frontières, who are taxpayer funded, walking out of the camps. They took their nurses and their doctors and their aid workers with them. I think that's an absolute disgrace down to their own ideology. We fund those people, and I have asked for their funding to be withdrawn. The human rights industry is undermining us. They are actually working against us. They are telling economic migrants that they should become refugees or asylum seekers. The European Commission and the Parliament is also working against us on this. So my message is, the human rights industry, stop what you're doing. You're doing so much damage. You are stopping the genuine refugees and the genuine asylum seekers getting through to our countries. That's my message that I took back to the Commissioner. I want the genuine asylum seekers. I want to help them. But it's the European Commission and the Parliament that is stopping us doing it.
Vielen Dank, Janice.
Thank you very much, Janice. But we have a second topic we shall speak about here today, because yesterday something disastrous happened. A British member of the Parliament was shot in her face and she died as a consequence of this attack. And we also want to pay our respects and our condolences to her family. But I'd like to ask Janice, who has fought a lot for Brexit, to tell us a little bit about the discussion in Great Britain and the changes that may have happened since yesterday's events.
First of all, I stood in this constituency in 2010. I stood in a constituency where Joe Cox was murdered. I have campaigned on that doorstep. As a wife and a mother, I send my heartfelt condolences to her family. All of us in this room are in politics because we think we want to make our countries better. We're all actually in it to improve the lives of ordinary people, whether you're from a socialist perspective, a green perspective, or a conservative perspective, as most of us have. I've suspended my campaign on Brexit. I was coming here to talk to you tonight about my hopes and my dreams for my country, but maybe we could just give a minute's silence to Jo Cox and her family. I hope you'll join me in that small prayer.
Dann darf ich ersuchen, dass wir diesem Vorschlag Folge leisten.
I propose to follow Janice Atkinson's proposal and have a minute of silence.
Herzlichen Dank.
Thank you very much. Lorenzo Fontana from Verona.
From Verona. We have something in common because for eternities we are both in policies. Also, he has been working since his young days for Lega Nord. He became the vice head of Lega Nord and who knows Lega Nord among you and who also observed the development of Lega Nord. From municipality to municipality, this movement became stronger and stronger. And Matteo Renzi, the present Minister President and Prime Minister, is now really has problems with the growing force of Lega Nord, and I think for us it is really good to have a partner like Lega Nord. A question to you, Lorenzo. You are one of us. You are also fighting against certain expression of political establishment, but on the other side, Lega Nord is good represented in many communities, has the mayors, is taking over responsibility. When you are found fault with populism, is this justified for a party like Lega Nord, or is this also an absurd accusation? Because like us, you are just addressing the right problems. Well, I would like to thank my colleague Harald Wilimski. I would like to thank Mr. Hofer, Mr. Strache for the great friendship who is uniting us for many years. And I would like to thank Vienna and the Austrian nation because for many years, for centuries, this country is representing the right Europe, the Europe of identities, of nations, and the Europe which was not ashamed to be what it was, the cradle of civilization. And we really hope to go back to these values which made Europe great. And I have to tell you that the Lega Nord, which is in the richest regions of Italy, in Venezia, in Lombardia, we have nearly 50% in these regions. And when you say that we are populists, then it is only said because these people are afraid to lose their power, and these people are afraid that this Europe might change and that this Europe might finally become a safe and heavy place for us and our children. Thank you, Lorenzo. A very short question to you, Lorenzo. Italy is one of the first countries for migrants from northern Africa. What are the recipes of Lega Nord to keep the cultural identity of Italy and just to defend the country against these migration waves? Well, here I would like to remind you, as it was the case in Austria not too long ago, my parents, my ancestors, like your ancestors, have on the 7th October of 1571 were fighting together against the Turkish army. They were defeated. They had less men. They had less possibilities. But finally, they won. And so we have to find again to be proud of our roots. And the second issue is nobody will be allowed to come to Europe as an illegal migrant. We have no space for illegal migrants. And the third point is, if somebody wants to come to us, wants to come to our regions to work here, then he has to integrate. He has to integrate in our culture. He has to take over our identity. And somebody is not satisfied with crosses, if somebody wants to have mosques here, if somebody wants to have his or her culture here, then these people must understand there is no place for them in Europe. Either they integrate in our culture, in our identity, into our tradition, or they may stay at home. Thank you, Mr. Fontana. And now I would like to talk about the last representative of these two panels, Gerolf Annemans. Gerolf Annemans has not been only a member of parliament for 30 years. He's speaking 5 languages fluently. He's also a very valuable part of our international alliance. He's the representative of Vlaams-Belang. And my question to him, and you should all listen to him, the Vlaams-Belang in Flanders was a very strong political power. I think in Antwerpen they had more than 35%, and suddenly something has happened. I could tell you what, but I think it's better when Gerolf Annemans will tell us what has stopped this strong growth of Vlaams-Belangs and where we should defend ourselves against. Thank you, Harald. Thank you, Harald. As you might know, there is not only a historical link with Austria and Flanders, but there's also a big friendship. And for 25 years, there has been a strong friendship between Vlaams-Belang and FPÖ. And since the last election campaign of FPÖ, we are very proud of you. We are all parties who go a special way, not only a political way, but also a way to change the society. We are going to the 21st century, and we are going a very difficult way. Sometimes there might be some barriers, as we have seen in Flanders and as it also happened in France with Sarkozy. Sometimes you have to renew parties like FPÖ did, and sometimes elections or voters are deterred by lies or manipulations. But what we all have, we want to write a new history for that Europe which we love. It's a long way. It's a very difficult command. Sometimes we are defeated or we go down, but finally we always have to strive for success, because only with this success we can get the lesson. Never give up. Always go forward. Thank you. And my last question now. My last question is the so-called European capital. It's not mine, but it's called the European capital. It's Brussels. And whoever has been in Brussels knows every night you hear ta-ta, again there is a police going to Molenbeek or to other quarters, because Islamization and extremism are everyday life. Administration does not work. You have to wait for some stupid things for a very long time, and then it does not work. And now a question to somebody who really knows that: to which extent is the political model in Brussels a lost case? To which extent could we say so? Yes, Harald, yes, that is the case. Brussels, well, for 20, 30 years, there has been a fight between the liberal and the socialists, and then the socialists have abused their participation in parliament to give vote of election to the foreigners, and then the socialists have won the fight with the liberals in Brussels. Then they cooperated with the Green Party, and then they have Islamized the city. And now, during the attacks, we saw what happened. The Islamo-socialism, as we call it, is bad for the people. It's the end of Europe. And just finish the socialists. Many, many thanks, Janice Atkinson, Lorenzo Fontana, and Gerolf Annemans, our partners on a European level. Thank you very much. And now I will give the floor to Marlies. Thank you. Thank you, Gerald. Thank you to Italy, Great Britain, and Flanders for presenting their visions for Europe. And now it's a great honor for me to present to you a lady who is just forming the political landscape of France and also Europe. A lady who since 2004 has been a member of European Parliament, and 2011 she became the head of the traditional Patriotic Party to modernize that party and to make that party fit for the challenges of the 21st century, of the Front National. A lady who is on her way to have great political successes. Next year, she will be the candidate for Front National in April 2017 to become president, French president.
Service already say today that she has a good opportunity to make it, and maybe she will succeed and become the first female president of France. And that she can do it. She's already proven in 2014 when she made Front National into the strongest political power in France, and is now with 24 MPs in the EU Parliament. Before this excellent lady will come up to the stage, we will show you a very exciting video about her.
fraternelle, où il fera un nouveau bon vivre. Je rappellerai ces mots de Bernanos. L'espérance est un risque à courir. Vive la République, vive le peuple et vive la France!
L'avenir, c'est Marine. Die Zukunft.
So, welcome Marine Le Pen here in Vienna. Let us welcome the president of Front National, Marine Le Pen. Good evening, Austria. Dear friends, here in Vienna, we're in one of the most important centers of European history. The capital of the Habsburgs represents the idea of an empire which unites numerous peoples and nations. A new organization has been born here 200 years ago with a new vision for the countries of the European continent. Today, Europe and its peoples, nations, expect a new political vision. The project of the European Union is a complete failure. Its founders had the idea to do away with national states in order to create a large, homogeneous, federalistic unity. On behalf of a balanced administration, peoples now have no longer a right to their budget sovereignty, security, economic policy standards, and laws. The system deteriorated gradually to an awful technocracy. Over the years, many people decried these developments in the past decades. Some even warned before the signature of the Roman treaties, such as, for example, Pierre Mendès in France. But you cannot do away with nations that quickly. Everywhere the rejection of EU-cracy is increasing. Renunciating, first of all, the austerity principles, this absurd dogma ruins entire states such as Greece. The directives of the European Commissions bring reforms everywhere that deteriorate the labor law. Only in order to be in line with the flexibility criteria as demanded by multinational groups. They always want more profits and more profits, and this is above any other considerations. Basic social systems are under threat. The workers do what they can to oppose it. The social climate is deteriorating in France too. Between the government and the blue and white collar workers, there can be no dialogue. The governments do not want to admit that they are completely under Brussels' spell and therefore cannot remove these problems and solve them. The trade unions are also full of Europeism and do not want to meet or live up to their true responsibility vis-à-vis the workers, as long as the main reason of this conflict is not taken up. The liberal dogmas of the European Union. A joint discussion is impossible. The European construct had as a first target to secure the prosperity of European countries. Just remember this. And this has been a complete failure. The Eurozone has now one of the lowest growth rates in the world. Mass unemployment is nothing new. The precarious situation of many people who earn very low incomes is deteriorating every day. Only big global companies profit from this system. They import labor force and try to get as much subsidies as possible. The second aim of this European construct was to unite the nations and to improve friendship between them. This has backfired completely, which is only logical. The EU directive on sending labor and workers lead to a bitter competition between the individual countries. Those have a competitive edge who offer the worst social security. How can you imagine just for 1 second that under such conditions a close friendship between nations can come about? Every nation views other nations as its competitor. The different economic conditions have formed a hierarchy. Some are playing to be dictators and others those who are abusers in a crisis that is very bad taken itself. This crazy migration policy is further deteriorating the situation. The European Union has not managed to find an answer for the migration crisis. And we have to tell you even more. Thanks to Mr. Juncker, thanks to Mr. Schulz and Madame Merkel, the European Union is to blame for this crisis. There hasn't been any answer, neither in the short term nor in the long run, because of the stabilization of the countries of origin of those people in order to guarantee them an honorable life in their own home countries. And this is why the nations are looking for other ideas. I also welcome here and congratulate Norbert Hofer with his excellent success at the Austrian presidential elections. I also observed the development of Brexit with interest. Those fearful speeches by Juncker, Schulz and the others should not impress us. The European Union should rather change its motto. In varietate concordia is wrong. There is no unity in this European Union. When you just listen to these gentlemen speaking and see how they act, then the motto should be Oderendum meduand. May they hate me as long as they fear me. Anyway, you should not fear a disaster for Great Britain if they exit the European Union. What they fear is that Great Britain might find its freedom again, get back its own freedom to act with those partners it chooses itself, freedom to act diplomatically according to its own ideas, its freedom to admit migrants or to prevent them from coming to the country. We want that all peoples in Europe find their freedom again, that they are free to defend their interests and their will. The main principle of democracy is to respect the people's will. This principle is anchored at the heart of our vision, because it is being violated by the European Union time and again. There are numerous cases where the people's where individual countries made plebiscites and proposals to the European Union, and they have been rejected so many times. It happened to the French, to the Dutch, and to many others. But you, our patriotic Austrian friends with Heinz Christian Strache, you will succeed. However, only free nations can have a true and constructive dialogue. Slaves obey their masters. They do not really cooperate, only to revolt. In a Europe of nations and freedom, every individual state can get involved in those projects it is interested in and seems relevant to it. Several countries have already introduced this principle. Some of them have rejected being part of the Eurozone and the Schengen area. As long as the states are strong enough, the EU has to step back. This does not mean that we do not talk to each other. It's rather the opposite. What we want is that these countries act together, talk together, and cooperate in joint projects. Ariane and Airbus have got nothing to do with technocratic bureaucracy. There were huge projects that have become industrial successes because all of them have been involved voluntarily, and then the result is always better than under force. If you respect the will and interests of each people, then you create friendship, because nobody has to fear the others, has to fear to lose its national characteristics. We have to stop hamper traditional handicraft products with not understandable standards. And other disasters such as TTIP also have to be prevented from being signed. Because of our agriculture is being ruined, our industry, the quality of our food is diminished, our markings of origins are threatened by this treaty. That the European Union does not stand up to protect it really shows that its ultra-liable ideology is above any other considerations. The FPO loves to quote General de Gaulle, who has protected the concept of a Europe of nations. François Hollande may bow before the general's grave, but I doubt that he is advocating the wonderful ideas of the general or has even understood them. And this is the idea we defend, we stand up for. Free nations, balance, with self-esteem, knowing their interests, can discuss their own cooperation. Nations who all have their place in the international community. Countries with characteristic histories. Great Britain very much loves its Commonwealth. France has a lot of maritime area because of its overseas territories and always want to be heard in the world. I want France to be free and all the other countries to be free. Free to say no to NATO, to UN, or the current US-American administration. And France was able to do that only as a sovereign nation. I want them to negotiate and to sign treaties only if they want to. Also with the Great Britain, which may have exited the European Union because of the Islamistic threat. We have a huge burden to bear. Therefore, the nations have to pursue a harmonized diplomatic and military policy. This has to be done in accordance with a Europe where every voice is being heard. But France's voice should not be shut out. The cooperation of nations will be a lot less harmonious when the big powers in Europe are silent. And instead of the European Union, who doesn't have its own vision, they are being dictated by NATO and UN. Europe, as we see it, is no utopia. Its principles have been long known and have been already realized in the past. Institutional and economically, in Europe, cooperation upon need was always the thing that got the best results. It's a realistic project, concrete and very serious, far from the chimera of a federalist country. It's the only project which will enable us to create a stable, blossoming and peaceful future. This is the hope I bear in me for France, and which every one of our unionists bears in his or her heart. This hope is growing stronger by the day, and I hope that Europe's nations will soon find again prosperity, dignity and freedom. Cheers to a Europe of nations and freedoms. Thanks to Heinz-Christian Strache. Up with Austria, up with the FPO. 3 cheers for France.
So thank you very much, Marine Le Pen. And now I would like to call everybody to the stage. We would like to ask now the gentleman to the stage who made FPÖ very successful, because he is the one who really takes serious the worries and the problems of Austrians. He always listens to them. He always believes and fights for a better Austria, where the word homeland and nationality still have a certain significance. And also for that person, we have prepared a video film. We do not want to have people equal. We want a neutrality. We want a free Europe of national countries. That's the future for the peace. Well, he is our steering man. He is just giving the direction to a positive development. The captain of the FPÖ, Heinz-Christian Strache. Dear friends, Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I would also like to welcome you, and I would like to say Grüß Gott to you, to everybody who accepted our invitation on a short-term notice, because today is a special day with special guests, with great guests and with great personalities. And here well, among us is this great personality, Marine Le Pen, the strong lady of France and Europe, and I would like to welcome her especially. And I would like to say strong women like that, strong personalities like that are not only required in France, but in Europe, so that in that Europe something can be corrected finally. And we need personalities like Marine Le Pen, where you can say, in Austria, we had our candidate for presidency in Austria, Norbert Hofer, and I'm very proud of him. And I tell you, Norbert, your success during the last election for presidency, where now the Constitutional Court will have to deal with that subject because of some illegal processes, but your success at this presidency election, where all other parties, all other political competitors, the Social Democrats, the People's Party, the Green Party, the Liberal Party of the Neos, the commissioners of European Union, they were all against Norbert Hofer, and Norbert Hofer has won 50% against all the others. He was alone against the system. He was alone against the establishment. He was alone against everybody. I tell you, Norbert, because you are a very warm-hearted person who has character. You said the key sentence in a discussion with Van der Bellen. The others have the so-called fashionable ones, but behind me is the decent population, and that's really your merit. But dear friends, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear visitors, I would also like to welcome you with an Austrian Grüß Gott. I would like to welcome all proud nations and their representatives who give this strong and mighty signal to our continent, to the Christian Western countries. And we would like to get back our countries. We would like to get back our democracy. We would like to get back our sovereignty, our freedom. We want like to get our self-determination. Yes, we want peace, prosperity, and freedom in Europe, because this European Union is committing suicide for Europe, and we do not want to watch that any longer. And I would like to thank again Marine Le Pen, the French candidate for the presidency, because her ideas, her political ideas, which she has presented, well, I can only say I feel good when I know that here maybe the future French president has talked to us. She's a friend of Europe. She's a friend of Austria. Dear Marine, we wish you all the best for your campaign. All our best wishes, all our hopes are with you, dear Marine. We will succeed. We will overcome. And also, I would like to thank the representatives of the Alternative für Deutschland, Markus Brezel, who has spoken to us already, but also Alexander Gauland as a vice head of the party who is among us, and give our best regards to Frauke Petri, whom I met at a height of 3,000 meters above sea level at the Zugspitze. So the political climaxes, the political mountains which we climbed together, and also the common region between Germany and Austria, and the cooperation between FPÖ and the ADF, we would like to strengthen that. And the Alternative für Deutschland is a very, very young party. And of course, this party has to consolidate itself. This is a big challenge, but this young party has succeeded already, and they have fire in all their hearts. And so we can only say we, of course, respect you because you just increased from 0 to 20% in Germany. And I can only tell you, I'm convinced during the next elections of the Bundestag, you will have a two-digit result. I would like to predict you will be in front of SPD because you are the party taking social responsibility. And I would also like to say Frauke Petri is playing a very important role. Besides Marine Le Pen, Frauke Petri is the second strong woman and personality in Europe, because what has done Merkel is a very, very big damage for Europe. It's political craziness, and I can only tell I really keep my fingers crossed for Frauke Petri that she will be the future German chancellor in order to correct that damage for Europe. But dear friends, all our other partners who have come from Europe, we would like to welcome you in Vienna, and we are full of pride that you have come, that you also make possible that power in our fraction. We have listened to Lorenzo Fontana, the representative of Lega Nord. Well, this Lega Nord, with these personalities, they are also challenging Matteo Renzi. And Salvini could not come today because in Milan and Bologna he has regional elections next Sunday. But he will be successful also there. And if this Lega Nord with Lorenzo Fontana and will continue as they did so far, then we will not only see Marine Le Pen as a president in France, Frauke Petri in Germany, Heinz Strache in Austria, but also the Lega Nord will have the presidency in Italy. And when I listened to Olaf Stucker from the Netherlands, and I know he is among us, who is the representative of Gerrit Wilders. All of them are great personalities, as also Gerolf Arnemans from Flanders, or Janice Atkinson from Great Britain, or Laurențiu Rebecca from Romania, or Tomio Aquamura from the Czech Republic, Michael Marušik from Poland. We have a great union, we have a wonderful family, and you all are the pioneers of a new Europe, of nations, of freedom, and you are friends with whom we can talk on the same level, respecting each other and being friends, and I'm proud of that. And we saw before that event that again, and I will call them now by their name, the leftist extremists, and they just were evaluating our guests. They were considering and calling them extremist, radical, and other silly words. Then we can only say the leftists are just trying quite often with violence to convince people who think differently. And I tell you, the new fascism will come from the left side and from the radical Islamism, dear friends. Dear friends, a Europe of peoples, a Europe of democracy, a Europe of self-determination. That's what we want. And when we see this wonderful event today, then there is one personality who made it possible, besides many little helpers, of course, who helped in the organization. But the main personality is the head of our fraction in the European Parliament, Harlan Wilimski. Please stand up. We would like to thank you for your wonderful work. Dear friends, well, today's Patriotic Spring is showing us that an idea is becoming popular throughout Europe. Yeah, we all are friends. Yes, we all cooperate closely where it makes sense and where we decide to do this on a voluntary basis. But we do not want a European centralistic government. We do not want a centralistic development with people like Juncker and Schulz, who just bring that Europe in a wrong direction, dear friends. We want a Europe of diversity. We do not want a European homogeneous mess. And finally, we want to make sure that not the European nomenclatura is just sacrificing all our achievements on the altar of European Union. We do not want that only decisions are made in the interests of multinational company groups and that our small enterprises and agriculture are destroyed and sacrificed. And I tell you, it is a fact. We are different parties. And in some questions, we also had different contents, different attitudes towards political subjects. But, dear friends, it's quite logical. We are coming from different countries with different requirements, with a different mentality. And there are also things which we have in common and which also make us different in a good sense, because we are against this leftist equality. We are not all equal, but we respect each other, and we just treat each other with respect. And that cooperation has clear political targets, common targets. And these targets are more direct direct democracy, obligating plebiscites, participations of citizens, with the target that direct democratic decisions are above Parliament and are above the right of the European Union. The right is coming from the people and not from bureaucrats somewhere above. And together we want more responsibility of legislation from Brussels. We want to give back these competences of legislation from Brussels back to the national parliaments, into the hands of the elected representatives of peoples in Europe. And we want to protect the cultural plurality on our continent, because we say very clearly we do not want to become a copy of United States of America with a central government in Brussels. No, we want to be a Europe of national countries, a Europe as Charles de Gaulle wanted. And dear friends, we really want to defend ourselves against the dominance of multilateral company groups. We want to strengthen the backbone of the economy in Europe, and these are small and medium enterprises. This is the European agriculture and the ability to feed our people. And TTIP is a contradiction, and I can only say, as Norbert Hofer, as the candidate for president, said this very clearly already, without a plebiscite, TTIP and CETA will not be decided above the heads of Europe. This would be an attack for the citizens of Europe. And of course, what is very important for our European alliance, we are not against Europe, as our enemies all repeat and repeat with a certain intention. We as patriots, we are for our home countries, but we are also for Europe. But dear friends, we need another Europe. We need a new Europe. We do not need a centralistic Europe, which is not good for the citizens, not a Europe which is just bound by the United States of America, but a Europe which thinks about its own identity, its own cultural values. And I tell you, with all intention, we do not need conflicts in Europe which have arisen because of geostrategic interests of the NATO against Russia, and where NATO troops are now going towards the eastern border of Europe to the Russian borders, which is contradicting agreements and contracts of NATO, which have been also concluded with Russia in the past. And I also say, let's stop this unpleasant development. Let's stop the sanctions against Russia. They are detrimental for Europe, and they are not helpful for peace. And dear friends, when I talk about safety, then I also have to talk about the modern immigration wave. Well, terrorists are among these immigration waves, and they came to Europe because our governments have failed. Our governments have just infringed our laws. They have not protected the borders of Schengen, not their national borders. People came to Europe without passport controls, without registering them, and all that, of course, was supporting radical Islamists, and they came additional to Europe. And this was also leading to this disastrous radicalism, which we see all over Europe, but especially in France and in Belgium. And not too long ago, 2 policemen have been killed in a very atrocious way in front of their child by a radical Islamist near Paris. And we all remember the horrible massacre in Belgium at the airport, and in Charlie Hebdo, and in Bataclan. Well, across Europe, there is terror, and you forget too quickly. Well, the radical Islamism, that is the danger for Europe, but this is also the danger in that world. That's the fascism of the new time. This is the fascism against people who think different, who are homosexual, who are Christians, who are Jewish. Well, this is fascism which is against all people who do not want to be subordinate to that fascism, and we cannot allow that. We have to defend our Europe, we have to defend our freedom, and we have to be against that Islamism. Because this new horrible anti-Semitism is arising in Europe. And here we have a special responsibility because of our own history. We should never allow again that Jewish citizens in Europe or in Austria are confronted with violence or are threatened to life because of other people. And also this is our responsibility. And every form of violence and extremism should be denied, no matter if it's coming from the left or from the right side. Extremism and violence is fought by us, and we deny that, and we are against that. But we see a new violence as because of this modern migration, sexual mass harassment against women all over Europe, ethnic conflicts, nearly wars in different cities of Europe, knife attacks, theft, cultural disagreements and battles, no-go areas in several cities. And I tell you, all that has become possible because we have politicians reigning over us who do not look after their own population, but who look the other side. And that's what we have to stop. We have to really abolish this unable politicians. We see that criminal and unauthorized refugees, economic refugees, come to Austria. They are to Europe. They are no refugees in the sense of the Geneva Convention. And Minister President Orban has expressed this very clearly here. The enemy is taking territory in Europe, which has been allowed by European politicians. And we do not hesitate to help when we have to help. Yes, we would like to help. We would like to help people who are really threatened according to the Geneva Convention. Yes, We will support these people. We will help them with any help they need. And we Austrians have shown that already. And we have an open heart for people who are threatened and who need our protection and our help. And we have shown this 1956 during the Hungarian uprising. We have shown this 68 with the Prague Spring, and we have shown this in the 90s for people from former Yugoslavia. In our neighborhood, we have helped everybody who needed us. But, ladies and gentlemen, there is no reason that people just travel through all continents, through 4 or 5 safe countries, which they do not consider good enough, and their destination or their desired destination is Austria, Germany, or Sweden, because they have only one target: to get the highest social benefits, dear friends. And I tell you again, in the countries, there is already now a kind of internal migration. The ones who came to us as the so-called asylum seekers, then they are in Upper Austria, in Lower Austria, in Styria and Carinthia, and now they go to Vienna because the financial subsidies are better and higher. But I think this is showing this absurdity with which we are working. And we are not talking here about people looking for protection, but these are people, these are immigrants who want to have the highest financial subsidies and support. Dear friends, we don't want to tolerate that, and we do not want to accept that. And it's good that in Upper Austria, the minimum subsidies for asylum seekers has been shortened significantly.
What we need is our tax money we've worked for so hard. We need it for our families, for those who suffer in our country, in order to promote our economy and to safeguard our health and pension systems. And the solution can only be that all people who come from Arab-speaking country, from Africa, or any other countries who want to come to Europe, we have to signal them. No way, don't even try it. We cannot take you, we will send you back, stay in your countries and help to rebuild your home countries. There is no question those who flee war and whose life is really under threat, we want to offer them protection. But in the end, it will be only temporary protection. And I think I'm speaking here of all our European partners. A right to domicile, a right to a home is a human right. And this applies to all European nations. It applies to the French, the Dutch, the Germans, the Italians, the people from Flanders, for Austrians and Europeans. And this is a right that is stepped upon nowadays. The large number of participants from all over Europe today proves that we have become a large, stable, parliamentary family. There are no walls in our head. We rather have an open heart for each other. We don't want isolation. We want cooperation wherever it makes sense, economically, in research, security, policy, and in infrastructure. We're no dumb nationalists who don't see left or right. We are true patriots who love our countries, who love the historical and cultural development of our European Christian Jewish country. And we don't want Islamization and destruction of this Europe. We want plurality, but also our own identity. We want to have it safeguarded. And for more or less 1 year, we have been cooperating at the European fraction, in the fraction Europe of Nations and Freedom, ENF, in the European Parliament. And this is why we will send this strong signal for a patriotic spring throughout Europe, a signal which is very much necessary after the deep winter in which the European nomenclature and the governments of numerous European countries have brought about. And I'm sure on the 23rd of June in Great Britain, we will see the result of the Brexit vote. The discontent of European nations is huge. People, not only in Great Britain, people want an alternative model. They want a new European cooperation. They don't want to accept developments where Maastricht contracts are violated by central governments. They want to protect their own borders and forbid us to protect ours. We really have to experience that this European Union is committing suicide and wants to destroy Europe. And I tell you, we have a responsibility to bear. We cannot just watch without action, and we won't do that. And I think we all together will be able to create sufficient reform pressure, and either the politicians of the European Union will reconsider because of our pressure, and I'm telling you that on purpose, who does not accept the signs of the time will be removed. And it's time for Merkel, Scholz, Juncker and the others to leave and to liberate their offices. And I'm getting to the end of my speech. This European Union is rather tattered right now. The currency shows a disastrous development with mass unemployment throughout the continent. We haven't seen such mass unemployment since 1945, and companies are threatened by a wave of bankruptcies. A wave of bankruptcies unseen so far. We have a health and pension system that is under massive threat. An irresponsible migration wave that is flooding Europe and could make ourselves minorities in our own home countries. And only if we start to correct the course in time in Europe, only if all of us will stick together and stand up. And I tell you, we don't need a Europe that is created by political and economic elites and who want to exclude all direct democratic decisions. We want a Europe, the architects of which are the nations of Europe, who cooperate at eye level, a Europe of diversity. And this is our European continent, and we only have one continent, only one home country. And this home country we have to protect for our children and their children. Dear friends, We know, but also our competitors know it, and that is why they're so nervous. They know that in all the European countries, the freedom parties are getting stronger and stronger. And more people support us against the official media, against the manipulation that is obviously taking place and is directed against us. Despite the primitive name-calling we have to suffer, more and more people are waking up and recognize that we are on the right track. And together, we want to meet the challenges of our target. Let us stick together, shoulder to shoulder. Let us prove that we, the Freedom Parties of Europe, stand for justice, for well-being, wealth, prosperity, and peace in Europe. Let us prove that we make policy for the people. Let us prove that we're able to create a positive alternative model for this European Union. Let us start. Nobody can stop us. And I invite all the European partners here to come up to the stage so that we can stand shoulder to shoulder and show that we want to protect a Europe of home countries and nations. Dear Marine, please come up too.
Ein großes Dankeschön an alle Nationen hier.
Thank you very much, all the nations who participated today. A wonderful event is coming to an end. Thank you for having come, because this is very important. We're taking leave now, as we have very high security measures here. We will not have opportunities to take photographs for you and receive autographs. Unfortunately, this will not be possible. We ask for your understanding. See you next time.
sorgt für unser Österreich. Immer wieder Österreich, immer wieder Österreich, immer wieder Österreich, für immer und ewig. Immer wieder Österreich, immer wieder Österreich, immer wieder Österreich, für immer und ewig. Für Ehrlichkeit, Gerechtigkeit und Treue, sind wir Österreicher stets bekannt. Drum reicht euch jetzt wie allerbeste Freunde die Hand, und schwört auf euer Land. Immer wieder Österreich, immer wieder Österreich, immer wieder Österreich, für immer und ewig. Immer wieder Österreich, immer wieder Österreich, immer wieder Österreich, für immer und ewig. Mein Herz, das schlägt für Rot-Weiß-Rot, ich bin ein echter Patriot. Es macht mich frei, das gibt mir Kraft. In dir geboren, in dir zu leben, das Gefühl ist unbeschreiblich schön. Das gibt's kein zweites Mal auf der Welt. Das ist das Einzige, das zählt.